G'day guys, Shane Mostyn here. Today we're talking about the iPhone 13 and macro photography. We're going to do, say, 8 tips all about macro photography. With this phone, it's going to make it so much better than what you're using it for right now. Let's call it 5 Minute Friday. Let's put 5 minutes on the clock. Let's get cracking. Tip number 1 is to keep your operating system up to date. So when there's firmware updates to be done, make sure you do them. When this thing first came out, when the iPhone 13 came out, we were all excited about the macro photography aspects of it, and it did it automatically, and it still does do it automatically, but you couldn't turn it off. Then they did an update, and you had to go into the settings on the phone, go down to camera, go into macro photography and toggle it off or toggle it back on, and it just made the whole process, well, ridiculous. But they fixed it. If you upgrade to the latest beta version of iOS, you've actually got a toggle on there now in the camera app. So you can turn it off, turn it on without leaving the camera app. Genius. Everyone else has been doing it for bloody eons. Well done, Apple, you're caught up. So tip number 1 is to keep your phone up to date. If you're not on the beta program, jump on the beta program. You get some pretty cool little sneak peeks of what Apple is about to throw into the iOS. Tip number 2 is just to get that little bit closer than what you think. You might think, well, I've got this close, so go a little bit closer. You'll be surprised with the amount of detail that you will get. Have a look at these 2 photos here and you'll see the difference that I'm talking about here. So when you're doing this, get just that little bit closer. Whether you're doing it for photos or whether you're doing it for video, doesn't matter. Get that little bit closer, you'll be glad you did. Number 3 is all about lighting, and my best advice for you here is to go outside. Outside you've got this ridiculous, awesome lighting source, that being the sun. Use it. The more light, the better. You shoot this indoors, you take photos, macro photography photos indoors without any sort of light. The noise on these photos are going to go through the roof and you're going to get grain and so forth through it. So go outside, take the photos that you want to do outside, watch the shadow of that phone while you're doing it, make sure it's not in the photo, and you're going to get much better light, much less noise, lot less noise, and it's going to be a better photo. Lighting, really important. Go outside. In addition to that, if you can't go outside, get some lights to help you. I've done lots of reviews on lights and I've got a lot more coming up. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and you'll see the lights that I'm talking about. You can use different lights for macro photography. Number 4 is chasing the textures. Textures are just bloody awesome when it comes to macro photography. Macro photography, for me personally, I use it when I'm in a little bit of a creative rut and I'm not really out there taking the photos that I generally take here on this channel or in my life generally, and I'm in a little bit of a creative rut. So I go to macro photography and it opens my eyes up to things that you just don't see, well, with the naked eye that well. Nowhere is this more evident than with textures. Look at this, just textures, 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 textures. And you don't even know what they are, and it gets the mind thinking just outside the square, what you normally think when it comes to that creative element that you have. When we're talking about textures, just be mindful of taking photos of body parts and things. You'll be surprised just how bloody grubby you are when you get really close to it. You might go and wash your hands 5 or 6 times, then you come back and you'll be surprised how dirty your hands can still be. Everything that you go up nice and close to, you'll be surprised the amount of dust, dirt, hairs, all that sort of business. Well, it's just always bloody dirty. So keep things clean. People are taking lots of photos and videos and stuff of their mouths, their eyeballs and stuff, and getting this macro thing happening, and you'd be surprised how dirty some people are. It's bloody amazing. Number 6 is to shoot video as well. You might have, say, a colony of ants. You can do macro photography just over the top of those ants in slow-mo, and it's just bloody amazing. You can do some really, really cool stuff with it. And not just that, the transitions from macro to well outside of macro to even the wide-angle lenses, it just does it really, really well. Now, this is not as good as putting a macro lens on the front of your phone and using that macro lens like the mechanical lens. This is doing it through computational photography, but it does it really, really well. It's a perfect step into the macro pool, if you like, before you go and spend some money. Number 7 is just to keep on trying. You'll be surprised the amount of times that you do this, especially if you haven't done it before, and you're going to get nice and close to a subject and it's just not going to focus, and you're going to think this is just crap, it doesn't do it well. Keep trying. You'll be amazed at the results that you can get. Move around the light a little bit, get out of the shadows, go outside, bring some light in, bring some pieces of paper in to the side of it and deflect some light. You'll be surprised at what you can do with this feature on this iPhone 13. It does it really, really well. Number 8 is just to clean your stuff. Like, it doesn't matter how clean you think it is. it's still going to be dirty. So if you're going to take photos of your hands, wash your hands. If you're going to take photos of a subject, wash that subject. You'd be surprised the amount of dust, dirt, hair. Look at the keyboard here. You'd think that looks pretty bloody clean. When you get nice and close, it's actually kind of gross. And I'm kind of disturbed that I'm touching that with my hands. But yours will be the same. Go and have a look at your keyboard. You might think it's nice and clean, but this thing's just a haven for, well, crud and crap and corruption. That's it for today, guys. If you haven't subbed to the channel yet, make sure you sub. I do 2 videos each and every week, and I'll see you next time. Catch you later.